Okay, so we're recording. So welcome everyone that's here and thanks for coming. And I'm sure lots of other people will pop in as they all are now, and you're not missing anything. Anyone that's just joining, because I am recording. What I have is it's a live presentation in the sense that I'm here and I'm going to introduce it. I've pre-recorded a lecture for the very reason that it will allow me then to work with the chat. So if anyone has any questions throughout, you can put those into the chat and I will answer them as the presentation is live. It's 26 minutes, the recorded presentation. I'm going to present for three undergraduate programs within the Department of Communication Design, which I am the head of, and I'm John Paul Dowling. We have BA Illustration, BA Graphic Design, and BA Moving Image Design as undergraduate programs within this department. We also have an MA in Communication Design, which is a highly successful program, as well as all our undergraduate programs. In the chat right now, I'm going to put in, if I can find it here, I can't see it. Within the chat section now, I'm just going to copy and paste a lot of links. What these are, and you'll in the recorded presentation, you'll hear me reference these, but because we do moving image, which is screen-based animation work, motion graphics, they would take up the whole 30-minute slot that I have just to show that work. So I don't have the time to do it within the pre-recorded presentation. So I've just put it into the chat there. So there's links to amazing work that award-winning work. There's one work on international levels. I've also put in all the links to our Instagram pages, which you get a real insight into what it's like to study at NCAD. Just follow those. I assume all you young people are on Instagram, but following those, you'll see what it's really like day to day to study at NCAD and the type of work that we do. And I've also put in links to our graduate showcase for the last 3 years to get an understanding of not what you'll be when you come here straight away, but by the time you go through our educational process, what type of graduate you might be, to see the standard of work from the level that you guys are coming in at to where you're going to be. And it's important to remember in the context of all of, thinking about going to art school, a lot of people will, you might have a predisposition to who you think you are as a creative, but in actual fact, what art school is about, when it's done well and education is done well in this context, is what we do. We direct you into the type of creative we think you should be. And this is, I can look at my own self personally. Like, I studied in Limerick School of Art and Design. I went there at 18, 19 years of age, thinking I was going to be a fine art printer. And after the common entry year, I spoke with tutors and they were like, "You're not a printer, you're a graphic designer." And I thought, I didn't even really know what graphic design was at that point in time. But the staff had the expertise that I didn't have and were able to tell me that actually, I know you want to be this, but you're actually this. You're much better over here. And it changed my life for the better. And that's what art school will do for you. Art school will change your life. When you come to art school, everything is going to change. You're going to meet people that are going to be friends for the rest of your life. You might meet your lover. You might meet your future partner. It'll definitely redirect you in who you thought you were and what you're going to be. And that's our skill set. As you know, we're all practicing creatives in art schools. We're all educators. But we can see the nuggets of who you can be in a creative context. And we're here to nurture that and to facilitate that. So make sure everyone that's here to copy and paste what I just put into the chat now, because there's links to all these amazing moving image pieces, links to all our Instagram stuff, which you should follow to get an insight into the day-to-day existence of being a student in an art school. And then there's links to our graduate showcase for as the students are entering into the commercial world. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share screen and I am going to play my pre-recorded talk. And at any point, if you have questions, just put them in the chat and I'll answer back throughout the chat. And then I'll be here again live. Well, I'll be here the whole way through, but at the end for any questions anyone might want to ask in an open forum. So hopefully this will all work. And if not, just someone shout and tell me it's not working. But it should start playing now. You should see Department of Communication
Hello,
Design.
everyone. My name is John Paul Dowling, and I'm the head of Department of Communication Design at the National College of Art and Design in Dublin. Welcome to this open day presentation that I'll be narrating. I will take you through samples of work across the department. I will talk a little bit about what we were expecting from you guys in terms of portfolios and applications towards the end of this presentation. There'll also be some accompanying links. So there's a lot of moving image work that I will talk about, but just leave it up still on screen. And then I will provide the links for you along with this as it's uploaded, so you can view those excellent pieces of moving image work that would make this presentation far too long if I was to include them in it. But I would urge everyone, whether you intend on applying for common entry, for graphic design, for moving image, or for illustration, to view those pieces of work as well, those links that I will put online. So the Department of Communication Design in NCAD sits within the School of Design. The Department of Communication Design is one of the largest departments across NCAD. We have 3 undergraduate programs: graphic design, moving image design, and illustration, which I will talk about today. Just to give you that reminder, the NCAD, the CAO codes for your routes of entry into NCAD, you have 3 routes of entry should your goal be to study within the Department of Communication Design. The first route of entry, which a lot of students would choose, is AD 101, which is first year art and design common entry. It means you get a place in NCAD, you come into first year, and throughout your time and experience in first year, you make decisions what you would like to go on and study. And then you move into those disciplines towards the end of your first year, whether that is graphic design, moving image, or illustration, or painting, or print, or sculpture, or product design, or fashion, whatever that may be. Some direct entry routes for our department specifically, and they exist across the School of Design, but specifically for communication design. AD 102 is if you're interested in graphic design and moving image, you can secure a place on the program in second year straight away. Or AD 2017 for illustration, same deal. You will still go into first year and have the common entry experience, the same as students who come in this first route, but you will be guaranteed a place in these disciplines in the second year of study. You could, I must say as well, you can apply for all 3. So you could hedge your bets and apply for all 3. So I'm going to talk about graphic design first. Graphic design is a problem identifying and solving practice which has transcended its role as a facilitator of commercial messaging to become an essential and universal tool for communicating the multidimensional experience of place, product, service, and/or personality in every imaginable context. What we're saying, or what we're telling you here, is that graphic design as a subject, as a discipline, as a profession, has traditionally aligned itself with commerciality. Whether that was selling newspapers or posters to sell, for opera seat tickets or shows, or to tell someone to turn left or to stop or go back, or to, an advertising campaign for Nike that exists on billboards and commercial advertising or television advertising. Traditionally the subject has aligned itself with commerce, making money for people, and it still does, but it's also transcended that and is in every kind of walk of life. Graphic design exists, and it works in spaces that are you wouldn't necessarily deem commercial, whether that's in cultural institutions, whether it's a wayfinding system within a city, how to navigate a subway. These are all things that graphic designers do. We take very complex things and we make them accessible and legible to an audience. Our work generally exists outside, and that's outside the studio. So it could be on the street, could be in a bookstore, could be in a department store. This is a piece of work from a student who wanted people to become more sympathetic to what it's like to be dyslexic. So this is a still from some moving advertisements that really played with the text and had people try and get people to empathize what it's like for someone who has a learning difference like dyslexia, and to empathize with them. This is similar from that project. We have a student here who, this is a poster that advertises a chat room that he built that exists on the dark web. There's an onion skin URL for that. to aid student protesters in Hong Kong that were protesting. They were called the Yellow Umbrellas, the name of the movement against the Chinese government. Chinese state surveillance, the banning of Google and these kind of things, Wikipedia are banned. It stops students getting information, activists, anyone getting information, but also stops them from communicating with each other on the surface web. But as you move down to the deep web, which kind of where banking, transactions, all those things happen in the background, and into the dark web, which really has associations with drug dealing and pornography, and it's got a real bad rep, but actually there's a lot that exists on the dark web that's really empowering. This student actually built the chat room and had student activists, use it. This was part of a project the student produced. So again, work that exists outside, work that's actually happening, real work, live things. We don't do pretend projects in our department. This student was interested in getting into set design, graphic design for film. So they were producing, pieces of work that almost are like kind of counterfeit, but to, reimagine spaces or retell stories of a time past through using graphic design to build these narratives. This is a student who was working on a project around the Palestinian diaspora, who recently just won a grant for $2,500 to put these plates into production. So this is a student working on ceramics. So these are non-traditional ways where maybe you might think graphic design might exist, but it's all about communication, engaging an audience. But we do the traditional stuff too, the more commercial stuff. We work with Powers Whiskey. This particular student, the project was to reimagine the labeling of Powers. So this student fell an oak tree, sanded it down, burnished it, inked it up, and printed the labels. So it's aesthetically beautiful, but it's also conceptually relevant. Powers Whiskey is aged in oak barrels. The aging process is denoted in wood by the rings going out around the tree. So she's told the story that it's aging in oak barrels through a print that all emanates from the Powers logo. So very clever kind of stuff. We have fantastic printing facilities in LCAD, the best in the country, up there, top 3 probably between Ireland and the UK. We've over 500 cases of lead type between wood, large wood type and very small metal type. Students are taught typography through this method, the old printing method, inking up, composing, printing. This is a project that's happened just a couple of weeks ago where the students were doing protest posters around the sealing of the records for the mother and baby homes. This is important. What you'll see, a lot of what I'm going to talk about across all our disciplines are people, students, they're working with things that are happening in the real world around them. This is a book project. You're going to see, I'm hitting on a lot of typography because typography is very, very important for graphic design students. This student produced this book, which was around the War of Numbers, called The War of Numbers, which was, he was narrating arguments between mathematicians around different algorithms and theorems. He designs the entire book, he writes the entire book, he illustrates the book, he compiles the book. Everything is done to a professional standard. The book is printed, it's binded. We do a lot around kind of book design. It's a great tool to learn the full kind of journey of communication within a communication design context. Our students design their own typefaces. They don't just pull typefaces off the web. They do sometimes with very good typefaces designed by very good designers, but they also learn how to design working typefaces themselves that can be installed on computers, that can be licensed and sold. When you think about it, typography is everywhere in your environment. Someone has to design that type. And depending on the type of typeface used, it adds a tone of voice to language. It helps the reader frame what is the content that's being told to me, that's being said, this information. Is it serious? Is it funny? Is it shouting? Is it whispering? Typography is a really powerful tool in a graphic designer's arsenal. There's a piece here. It's an interactive piece of typography that I'm not going to show here because the sound actually is playing really bad when I try and show stuff within the presentation. But I'm going to put all the links up to all of the stuff that I acknowledge as moving image work for you guys to view in your own time. This particular piece of work went on to win a lot of awards, some major international awards. It was not only a piece of beautiful book design, but then there was an interactive projection mapping that happened with the book in a gallery kind of setting. So depending on whether you leaned left or right, different projections happened. It was an argument that was happening in the book between Sigmund Freud and Dr. Klein. And as you read the book, if you started, leaning towards Dr. Klein or Sigmund Freud's arguments, you would lean left or right as you read the book, and then it would change what was being projected onto the book based upon that. This is a piece of work. It's kind of a bonkers piece of work, but it's also a fantastic piece of work. It had just won an award recently at the Institute of Designers Ireland. This student was investigating hairdressing in Ireland. Through her research, identified that females spend about 2,000 hours listening to their hairdresser speaking while getting their hair done. So this piece of work was actually produced where the student knitted actual hair that she collected from hairdressers, and then the typography was applied through bleaching that hair. So really nice piece of work, really, really clever. And you could see works like this. Sometimes I think for people new enough to graphic design, they kind of think, well, like, how would that exist? But you could see process like this. This could be a book cover. This could be an album cover. This could exist on a billboard, on an ad shell, on a poster. So, how work is framed, it's what comes maybe later in your educational experience. So BA Moving Image Design. This is going to be relatively quick because I'm going to show you the stills, but I implore you to go and look at the work that I am going to put links alongside the upload of this presentation, because there's some fantastic work here on display. The course ethos for Moving Image is really around stories and how we tell them. And that's at the core of human narrative. We exist in a world where the screen holds powerful cultural capital, responding to developments in an ever-changing landscape. This program of study offers a range of approaches at the nexus of traditional communication and the evolving world of digital media. The program provides a range of exciting and expressive ways to tell a story, communicate an idea, or to create an emotive response. This is one of our newer programs, Moving Image Design, where we deal with, storytelling, motion graphics, motion design. It is by far the program that employers are telling us they want communication designers trained in. This is where the majority of jobs are within the creative industries at present. So we see it as a program that's going to grow and grow and grow. And it's certainly something that you should really kind of think about if you're interested in things moving on screen. So I will have links to these associated with this talk. This particular piece of work, when you go see it, it's all shot in camera. The student has used the freezing and unfreezing of ice to create a music video in collaboration with the Royal Academy of Music in Dublin, where they worked with a composer to create a music video for their work. The second piece that I'll put a link up for is this piece around death and dying, which was produced by a student and went on to win a Royal Society of Art Award. This is very much kind of traditional animation, frame by frame animation, drawing, then composed on the computer, colored in Photoshop, brought together in Adobe After Effects, Adobe Premiere, with the sound done in Audition. This next piece is a real good example of a whole plethora of skill sets, from some stuff that's shot on camera and then filtered and treated in Adobe After Effects, to hand-drawn animation, some three-dimensional work done in Cinema 4D, all compiled in Final Cut Pro. So there's a whole host of programs, Audition for the sound, that have all come together, maybe 7-8 programs to produce this piece. This is another piece about ageism that went on to win the Royal Society of Art Award. And this final clip here is a piece that a student produced, which is solely about editing, and they've pulled almost all of the content, although you'll see a girl in a red coat. He's filmed that himself. Everything else he's pulled from the internet. This is about, fake news, the rise of Donald Trump, Brexit, conspiracy theories. So the majority of the content comes from YouTube and is all mashed together to make a very, very interesting narrative, all set to some of George Orwell, who wrote 1984, some of his words on his deathbed about what he predicted for society. Fantastic piece of work this. So please make sure you go and look at all of these links that are going to be posted with this talk. BA Illustration. Our course ethos is that we see illustration as a powerful visual language which defies boundaries and extends across all art and design disciplines. Traditionally, it was mainly associated with bringing words to life in the publishing industries and in advertising campaigns. However, through the explosion of new technologies and media, illustration has never enjoyed such currency and is now encountered in every aspect of our daily lives. Illustration starts with drawing. We need good drawers, people who are good at drawing, to go on to become good illustrators. But drawing is only the starting point. An illustrator, if you look back to the etymological origins of the words, is an illuminator, someone who illuminates, brings light to a subject, makes people understand. These sketchbook drawings are from a student reportage illustration project where they worked as visual journalists. They had to respond to the 2020 government program for government and look at some of the thematics within that program for government. Things like transport, housing, health, the economy. This student was looking at Houston Station, Dublin, looking at transport, the vacancy of the space, the decision to draw the big high ceilings with the empty floors, highlighting now that in times of COVID, the transport has been minimized so much as our movements are restricted. So this student is producing drawings like a journalist would write words. So it's investigative, it's interested in what's happening outside. It's telling a story. It's helping the viewer to understand what is happening, but in a way that's emotive. It's not a photograph. It's not set up. It's the person on the ground there experiencing it and drawing it in a way that's appropriate to the mood of the place. Our students work with publishing houses. This is a second year student piece of work where they work with Village magazine, where they had to produce illustrations to accompany articles around Brexit. This was published in Village magazine, as was this piece on another article around Brexit. We have a variety of styles within the illustration program. We do not have a house style, so you'll quickly notice as you watch this presentation that everyone has got a different aesthetic. Everyone draws in different ways, creates in different ways, creates aesthetics in different ways, tells stories in different ways. So we're not about, which a lot of illustration courses are, we're not about imposing a style like this is the way to draw, this is the way to illustrate. We support you with the skill set you bring, and we help develop you as a communication designer, as a problem identifier, a problem solver, using the tools of drawing and bringing it to a level of aesthetic excellence. Again, very different style of illustration. So, Sophie really interested in humor, telling jokes through drawing and illustration. I would say what resonates to me about this image, although it's not the intention, is Sophie saying no college means no college work. I would say college means no work. As in, when you go to art school and you learn a creative practice that will afford you the opportunity to go and make a living doing something you love, you never work a day in your life. You simply are an illustrator. You simply are a graphic designer. You simply are a motion designer. It's a lifestyle choice. Work is not something you don't want to go to. Work is something you cherish. You want to do it every day because it's within you. And that means for the rest of your life, you do something you love. And it's an amazing gift that you can give yourself. It's an amazing space to exist within. That every day you produce and create and do things that you have a genuine passion and love for. And that brings an income in as well and allows you to live in this crazy world. Here's a piece by a student who was looking at kind of procrastination. For anyone that will end up coming to NCAD, this will become a very familiar sight. This is the Red Square, albeit this is pre-COVID, so there's no social distancing going on, and we would hope we can get back to something of this nature in the coming year, certainly by the time you guys come towards the end of 2021. This is a piece of work by student Gavin Connell that was published in the Irish Times to go along beside a piece of New Irish Writing. We've been working with the Irish Times 3-4 years. The New Irish Writing has now moved to the Irish Independent. The last Saturday of every month, you will see an illustration from a current NCAD illustration student. Gavin has gone on to build a very successful practice as an independent design professional, illustrating all sorts from album covers to music promotion, to t-shirt designs, to zines, to posters, which won awards. This one here for the COVID posters, which was done in aid of, to raise funds for Women's Aid. You may notice some of Gavin's work like this here, which he produced for the HSE. He did a whole series of posters, essentially looking at drug taking from a health perspective. So if young people are going to take drugs, then how can you promote that they look after themselves better? It's a great series of work he produced for them that you can see at drugs.ie. Another piece of Gavin's here, you know, very particular kind of style, skill, quite graphic in its approach, humor, you know, punch in the face kind of aesthetic. You can see how stuff like this exists on t-shirts and hoodies, how it would fit quite well in certain genres of music. But Gavin is doing very, very well, and he's only 2 years out of art school. This is from Baveen, very different approach. Baveen is very much into painting on an iPad. She's interested in narrative and storytelling, interest in the city and spaces. These pieces here actually won quite a few awards recently in the Irish Design Awards. Here's some of plans for books that Baby made that all folded up. So it starts with larger buildings getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but telling the kind of narrative of the street. The illustration students also worked on that Powers project with the graphic design students with very, very different approaches. Some clever stuff happening here. You know, the student has illustrated the ingredients that come from the field that go into making a whiskey, a Powers. So the whiskey is on the inside. So this is what's outside in the fields and brought to the distillery and then is distilled inside to produce the Powers. So it's conceptually relevant work. A big focus on that within the department. This is another piece that was done for Powers. The Powers actually loved, but told us it would be banned by the Advertising Authority of Ireland because you're not allowed to show people have too much fun when enjoying whiskey, or these guys may be crying down here, you wouldn't know. And the illustration students also, like all our students, access to letterpress printing facilities. They work with type, they learn type there, but they also work with printing techniques like lino, and pretty much anything you can get to type height printed in that facility. They produce portfolios of work each year that commemorate some memorable event of the year. This year was 2017. It was 100 years since the October Revolution in Moscow or in Russia, and students produce work that was inspired by that. These portfolios are bought every year by some of the main collecting libraries in the world, Harvard, Yale, you know, UCC and Cork. Are bought by private collectors. So our students, what I'm getting at by showing you all of this work, are published illustrators by the time they graduate. So they have a body of work and a CV. That means they're industry ready because they're already in the industry. They learn through the industry. Hashtag winning. Our students win loads of awards that I alluded to and still do every single year. They win awards at the International Society of Typographic Designer, the Royal Society of Art Student Design Awards, the Irish Creative Advertising and Art Direction Society, the Adobe Design Achievement Awards, D&AD, considered the Oscars of Design, Create Ireland, that student I showed you, Sana, that produced the plates for the Palestinian diaspora, just won a big grant from them. The Institute of Designers Ireland, we have lots of students on that shortlist. So if you're looking at this presentation, we want you to engage with the presentation. We want you to look at the links that are going to accompany this presentation, look at the moving image design work, the motion graphics, the animation work. We want you to submit a portfolio to come and study at NCAD. We want you to show us that you deserve a place on one of our programs. We want to see that you have the fundamentals of art and design practice, that you can draw, that you can think, that you understand some theory. A lot of what your art teachers is doing with you already. We want to see a little bit of who you are in your presentation. We want to see what you're interested in, what you care about, what issues are important to you, how you engage with the world around you, what you read, what you consume, what music you listen to. We want you to think about how you can tell us about who you are and who you want to be as a creative and how we can facilitate that. Some of our social media handles that you can learn a lot more about our programs, and scroll down through, look over what's been happening over the last year and previous years. We have 4 Instagram pages. We have NCAD Design, which is the overarching communication design page. We've got one for graphic design, moving image design, and illustration. And I would implore you to look at ncad.works, where you'll see the graduate showcase from this year. Students who worked in very challenging times that went fully online towards their degree showcase and have produced fantastic work and have gone on to win numerous awards, both nationally and internationally. Thank you for your time. Make sure to look at the links that are going to come with this presentation that will be posted, I assume, on the website beside this. But take time and engage with them and enjoy them. Thank you very much. Take care. We look forward to seeing your portfolios when they come in.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Because I'd be very surprised if you didn't have any questions, because most people here coming from Leaving Cert have no experience of an art school or what it might be like to study in an art school. So I'd assume you've got loads of questions. Zero questions? Really? Someone could be brave now, be the first person to ask a question, because I can guarantee you most other people in the room will want that question answered, but they mightn't be brave enough to ask it. Someone has put something in the chat. Let me see. What does it say? First one up is Kim. Can illustration and graphic design give opportunities in careers in advertising? Of course they can. We're the best people in advertising. A lot of people who work in advertising come from an arts background, might have studied philosophy or whatnot, or a broader arts degree in a place like Mary I or Trinity or whatnot. They tend to work in advertising. But the people who visualize in advertising are the graphic designers, the moving image designers, and the illustrators. Someone else has asked, what will make a design portfolio stand out? A design portfolio will stand out if we can see someone who's interested in the world around them. So it's not just about drawing, some cartoons that you like, or, things that you see and you're just mimicking drawing. What makes a design portfolio stand out is that we see you're engaged with the world. So you care about what's happening, whether that's from a political perspective, a climate perspective. But like, to be a good designer, you need to be engaged with the world. You need to care about the world. And design at its core is about improving the world for everyone around you. So if we can see in your portfolio that you're engaged with the world, and now I'm not talking about, no one's expecting anyone here to solve the climate crisis, but you may see things at a local level. It might be involved with your local GAA club. It might be tidy towns, but to see that someone is interested and engaged with what's happening with them around their local community and the wider kind of context of the world or the city, that makes portfolios stand out to us. Isabel is asking, is there any way we can see the campus or have a tour and see the different departments? I don't have the answer to that, Isabel. I think at the moment, no would be the answer that I can give. In that, just with what's happening with COVID and everything else, the movement of people we're trying to restrict. I would say our students are in, 2-3 days a week here, and then the other 2 days or 3 days are online at present. But no, I don't think there's a possibility to do tours. But actually, it's a good point. Actually, maybe I need to get my staff together and make a little video of what our department looks like, because it is very cool looking. So I'll take that and maybe come back to you guys on it. Next in is, what is student life like in NCAD? Well, I wouldn't know because I'm too old. How would I know what it's going to be like to be a student? But to me, it appears like the art school I went to back 20 years ago in Limerick. It's a fun place. It's a really accepting place. You can be who you want to be here. It's a place where people are committed and they work hard and they've got a goal to be good creatives. So from my perspective, and this is looking back my own time as an art student, it's the best time of your life. It's a point in your life where you get to be creative. You do this thing that was maybe a side thing up until now, where you drew pictures, you were interested in creativity or whatnot, and then it becomes your life. So it's a space where you meet people from different backgrounds, different I suppose, focused on who they want to be in life or what they want to be, super accepting. A friend of mine actually said recently, well, he worked here as well, but he said, all you have to do is look at art students and know that the world is going to be safe. Art school is one of the best places you can be, the most accepting people you can ever meet. You can be who you want to be and you can enjoy life, but you work extremely hard. But the beauty of it, which I alluded to, is you are doing work that you want to do. So that's what makes it enjoyable. It's not like you're, not there's anything wrong with swinging a shovel, and digging holes and whatnot, because I did it actually all the summers I used to work in. When I was in art school, I worked on building sites, but it's not that enjoyable. You get a bit fit, a bit of a suntan or whatnot, but the work you do in an art school is something you enjoy. So hard work is easy in that context. Next up, Isabel, again, if you have designed a few posters, for example, should you include them in your portfolio, even if they don't relate to the theme of your portfolio? I would say put everything in, because young people, young creatives have a tendency before they come to art school, particularly my department, to judge themselves about the work that they see around the place, whether it's Instagram or on the street or whatnot. And often that work isn't that good. And what you can originate yourself without a filter, because young people tend to filter their work based upon what they see around them to think that this is the type of work I should be doing. What we're interested in is the unfiltered work, because that's where originality comes from. So I would say put more in as opposed to less, in my opinion. Now, Common Entry might want something different and they want you to be more focused, but from a design perspective, I want to see as much as your work as possible, and I will make the decisions whether it's good or not, or what direction it might go in, and not leave it to you, because in all honesty, you are inexperienced and I'm experienced. So I'll be the one to judge that. So more rather than less, I would say. Robert's coming in with, if someone chooses graphic design on the CO but changes their mind after first year, is it possible to change department course in second year? It is. And remember, the CO is graphic design and moving image design, and that splits in the second year based upon where we think people are best to sit. Yes, it is possible to change course, but it is dependent on one, doing it early, because if a course has gone too far in, it's very hard to change then because you've missed all the foundational education of that course. But it is also based upon availability in the department you want to move to, and your own suitability. So it's not a free-for-all. You would have to talk to the head of the department, present your body of work, and make a case why you should be in that department. And then also there has to be a space available in that department. So my department generally is full the whole time. No one can transfer here because we have full classes. Sometimes people do change. They might go from moving image to media and a space might become available. It's doable, but we really want that to happen in the first 3, 4, 5 weeks of second year, or else you've kind of missed too much to be able to do it. And then the advice is, if you're really keen, to take a year out and come back and start a course from the beginning. There's some very sought after departments and areas and undergraduate programs in NCAD. My 3 would be 3 of them: graphic design, illustration, moving image, tend to be full the whole time, 25 students in each class. But painting is generally always full, media is generally always full, fashion is always full, textile is really high numbers, print is very high numbers. People fight to be in this institution. So yeah, you can change, but it's not as easy as just saying, putting your hand up, I want to change. Any other questions? Anyone brave enough to put their camera on and ask a question in person? Nope. Anyone want to put one last question in the chat? Oh, one comes in from Saoirse. Are there any particular studies that you like to see in portfolios, like typography or form studies? I like to see them all. Particularly if someone wants to study graphic design, I like to see people working with type, yes, and looking at type, definitely. Form studies is much more broader. It can span all disciplines. All depends on where you want to work or where you want to study, sorry. So typography, yes, for graphic design, form studies for all 3. Would moving image possibly allow you to go into an animation career? Yes, of course. So most of our moving image students are animators. Why it's called moving image and why it's broader than just calling it animation or motion graphics is because we do lens-based media. So we have people doing short form documentaries. We have people working in film. We have people working in stop motion animation, traditional animation. as you progress to NCAD and move towards your kind of final year of study, you take full control of your education. And that's when people really start to specialize. So yes, of course, moving image can give you a career in animation. Anyone else? Maybe Robert Turley there has a question, just because you've got such an impressive picture. I'm only teasing, Robert. Don't have to have a question. Are we good? Will I call it to a halt? Okay, thanks everyone. Feel free, my email address is on the NCAD website. I'm the head of the Department of Communication Design. John Paul Dowling is my name. My email address is dowlingjp@staff.ncad, which you can find at the NCAD website. If you have any very specific questions, drop me an email and I will get back to you in due course. I am very busy, it might take a bit of time. But I look forward to seeing your applications, your portfolios, and I hope to meet you in person someday soon. Take care, everyone. There we go. Boom, boom, boom.